Hello. I think you don't have to have your camera on. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which Linda this is. I think I might know. Oh, there she is.
There I am.
Linda, I don't know if I ever said, but my mum is also called Linda. So I wasn't sure. I was like, is mum showing up to being supportive or is this Linda?
No, it's me.
Okay, right.
About to eat my scrambled eggs, I'm afraid.
Go for it. Go for it. If you want to...
I'm not supposed to jig about, am I?
You can put yourself on mute if that's all right. Or I can do it, actually.
I'm just saying hello.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me say my opening spiel, shall I? And then I will share my screen with you and start going through the presentation. So, hi, welcome to today's live session. I am Rachel Tasker from Taskmaster Fitness, and I work with people who want to feel stronger, more confident, and more in control of their health as they get older. Today's session is called Wait, is this just getting older or should I be worried? Because let's face it, new aches show up in the body. Oh, hang on a second, I've read that wrong. Because let's face it, when new aches show up or your body stops doing what it used to, it's hard to know, is this something I need to take seriously or just part of getting older? Which sometimes it is, but sometimes there is something we can do. Add to that the GP saying one thing and Google saying another, and everyone in the comment section shouting their favorite cure, and you're left feeling stuck and in limbo and unsure of what to actually do next. So this session, hopefully, is all about helping you feel less overwhelmed, more equipped to make choices that actually support your health and not just stick a plaster on it. So let me share my screen with you, and then I can do the slides, and then we can really get into it. Okay, here we go. So, is this just getting older or should I be worried? Now, how am I going to know if someone else enters in? It's fine, leave it with me. I guess the first thing I will talk about here is just because it's common doesn't mean you have to put up with it. And sorry, I'm just checking who else, if anyone else is checking into the waiting room. No, okay. I think I'm good. So basically, it kind of, there are lots of sort of, I don't know, like maybe old wives' tales or things that we say. And Linda, as you're here live, please feel free to chip in and add in a comment, or ask me questions if there's something you want to know based on what I'm saying, because that could be really useful. Yeah, and for me, every sort of decade, although some people probably say that I'm still young, but like when I turned 30, everyone said, oh, it's downhill from here. And when I turned 40, they were like, oh, you're going to start collecting ailments. And it's that sort of sense that happens all the time. And you're right. On one level, people are it's just good humor and talking about the aging process. But it does also leave you feeling a bit like, oh, well, yeah, okay. Then life just declines and it's just something that I have to put up with. And that some people decline more quickly than others. And I'm lucky if it doesn't happen to me. And we kind of say it as if we have no control over the outcome or what happens next. The expectation is that there will be stiffness, aches and pains. Sorry, I haven't got a script. This is just some notes to keep me on track. And the latest excuse that I've heard, and I've literally heard it this morning, is, oh, well, it's impossible to get a GP appointment. There's no point, because, in 2 weeks it'll have gone anyway. And and that's how long it takes to get an appointment, which I totally understand where people are coming from. But sometimes it just means then we don't look after things the way that we could. We don't ask for the help that maybe would make things easier or let us understand where we are a bit more. Also, with something like osteoarthritis, which is something I work with a lot with people, is that you kind of just assume that it's an ache and a pain and it's not going to get any better. And we actually talked about this yesterday, and how it's osteoarthritis and it's the wear and tear condition, and that there isn't anything medically that can be done. So it sort of leaves you feeling a bit like, oh, well, what's the point? I've just got to put up with what I've got. And again, as hopefully I will go through and explain, there are things that can be done, and there doesn't need to be this sense of, oh, I just got to put up with it. And then sometimes, we touched on this yesterday too, there's this comparing. I would say competing and comparing, that's mindset language, but this sense of, oh, well, I've got a bad knee, Jill down the road has got a bad knee, but mine's not as bad as hers, so I can't really whinge. Or it's the other way around, like, oh, Ted down the road has got a bad knee, so do I, but mine is far worse than his, and why is he getting help and I'm not? These are sort of some common things that happen, that we think, that we feel, that we experience. And actually, they don't need to be true, and we don't have to just put up with them. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So I guess the bit that I say here is the human body is amazing. It readjusts, recalibrates, and finds new ways to deal with things all the time. For instance, there are some examples. So these aren't things that, my work necessarily helps, but these are things in the medical world that we know exist and happen. So liver function, that can decline, but also the liver can essentially repair itself, and a liver can become healthier again. The same can be said for type 2 diabetes. Now, with medicine and research, we now know that it's reversible, and we can, not type 1 diabetes, but with type 2 diabetes, it can definitely be reversed, and people can come off their metformin medication, or whatever it is they're on. And there is, in terms of musculoskeletal, so that's where we're talking about joint pain, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, even things like gout or fibromyalgia, by having more muscle in the body, it increases range of motion at a joint, so it's less stiff and it bends more easily. A person is able to get in and out of a chair easier, climb the stairs more easily when they've got more muscle around their bones. So it doesn't always need to be the case that we just put up with, oh, my knee doesn't bend the way it used to, and so now I can't sit on a low sofa. I now have to sit in a high armchair, or I have to sit on a dining room chair when I go around to a friend's house because I can't get down on their sofa. So there are things that we can do, and the body can change and it can adapt. The most important thing here, and let me just, how am I going to do this? Are you okay listening, Linda, or have you got any questions? She might be eating.
I'm absolutely fine. I'm just eating, and I just didn't think you wanted to look at it. So I'm agreeing with every word you're saying, and actually the only thing I was going to chip in, if you asked me, was I know that that's proven about the muscle bit, because both my knees are shot, as we discovered at the end of my session when we were trying to do the TRXing, and I kept thinking, it's weird, my knees don't seem to bend. And I had them checked afterwards, and they're bone on bone. But even so, when I started your course, I had to take the lift to go up the stairs. And by the end of the course, I could walk up all 3 flights without stopping. And the knees hadn't changed in the few weeks that was. And I didn't even know I had bad knees, if you know what I mean, in that I couldn't walk anyway very well because of my hip. So I would say it completely proves it. So that was all I was going to add.
Oh, thank you, Linda. Much appreciated. So that leads me on to what I was going to say about taking action and knowing what it is that you can do next, I nearly said need, but we don't want that word. What you can do next, if you choose, or if a person chooses to do what they want to next with whatever joint pain or stiffness they have. So the most important thing actually is to understand your circumstance. And what I mean by that is, so say Linda was at work at the Nuffield Health Gym and she needed to climb those stairs every day, but she got to a point where she couldn't do that anymore. Then for her to be able to potentially stay in her job or keep working the way that she does, she would need to be able to climb those stairs potentially. There was a lift, so it was not, this isn't the best example. But if your circumstance is such that you don't need to climb 3 flights of stairs, then do you need to do anything about it? So knowing your own boundaries, the things that you realistically want to do, or the things that in your life you want to be capable of doing, in which case, like, let's find you some action, let's get you some weight training exercises, let's start working with weights, let's, what solutions are there out there? What instructors do you need to find? What help do you, what support do you need from your family? What equipment do you need at home? Like, let's try and help you on your journey. And it's never too late to try another way. So you may have, I don't know, so you may have had some kind of joint pain for ages, and maybe you've tried resting it and not using it for a bit and hoping that would help clear it up. Maybe you have taken paracetamol every day for the last 3 months, and still, if you stop taking the paracetamol, you have pain. So you have tried some things to help yourself, but they don't seem to have worked. They're not the only 2 options that are available. There is always another way. And I often say this to people actually about classes, and they say, oh, I went to Pilates and I didn't like it. Sure, but that was one class, one instructor, and there are 1,000,001 Pilates instructors out there. So let's try and find a different one who is more accommodating or understanding of joint pain, or one who has a smaller class so she can pay you a bit, or he can pay you a bit more attention. So there's always another way that we can do things. Or, if you had a personal trainer in the past, but you wouldn't go back to them now because you couldn't keep up with the kind of training they did then, maybe you need to seek a different one this time around. There's always like a different way to approach it. Even with medication, like if there was a medication doesn't help osteoarthritis, but if you have rheumatoid arthritis and suddenly the pain is increasing, or is, you're not able to live with it in the same way that you were, maybe there's a change in medication that that could happen. It's not in my professional remit to really advise that, but I'm just flagging it as an option, that there's sometimes we can get in our own heads that we're doing it the one way that we think is right and it's not working. And we sometimes need to take ourselves out of that little hole and take a little look round and think, what else is there? What else can I do? And then also, oh, hang on, I haven't moved through any of these. So I was going to say, life changes. And that's what sort of, when I say like look out for different solutions, life does change, life moves on. Your life, in terms of research and what we know about conditions, that changes. So there might be different solutions that you're not aware of. And my last point about action is you're always welcome. There's always you're always welcome. There's always something that can be done. There's always another option. So then my last 2 things that I would say on this are, know that you don't have to just live with it. Really know that. And you don't need to walk into a doctor's surgery and be demanding and like, I'm better than this. Just know that you're in yourself, you're worth fighting for, you're worth looking for a different solution, another way that may work, or another coach or another teacher, until you find what works for you. That's okay. It doesn't matter how long that takes. keep looking for solutions. And then the last thing I often say to people who are living with joint pain, and really any sort of pain or any sort of long-term chronic condition, because we can get lost in our own heads of saying, oh, it's always awful, it's always like this, it's terrible, which again, I totally respect and understand. But when we break it down into, okay, what was it like 2 weeks ago in comparison today? Because it might be slightly better, because 3 months ago it might have been awful, and then we've been living with it, and then we might not realize that actually we've begun to live with it better, or maybe it's gone downhill worse, but we don't know. And it's really important to put a stake in the ground. Like, this isn't a joint pain issue, but I have my own, say, asthma, for instance, and my asthma got out of control a couple of years ago, and I had these exacerbations that both happened in the spring, each spring for 2 years on the trot. But because a year had gone by, I'd completely forgotten about it. But because I saw an asthma nurse and then I had a review again a year later, she was like, oh, this is always happening in April. What's happening for you in April? Why is this? And I was like, well, I have hay fever. That's when the hay fever season kicks in. And then that informed the change in the inhaler that I was on. And now I don't experience that exacerbation every single April. And I just share that with you to really give you an example of the point of it is worth writing these things down. It doesn't need to be a chapter and verse diary, but just a notebook or a diary somewhere that you just make a little note in. It just really helps you frame things. And also when you go to a doctor or a consultant about your issue, it shows to them that you're really able to give your situation context, that you really can't be accused of being emotional or over the top, because you're literally stating facts of the process of what's been happening to you. So it can be really useful. So that was takeaway number 1. Let me move on because I could talk about some of this stuff for hours. So the next thing I wanted to say, and I will check in again with Linda in a minute, are you healing, managing, or ignoring what's really going on? And I guess what I mean by this is, are you healing, managing, or ignoring? So is there a difference? Would you know the difference between each of those? And that's sort of building on what I was just saying about we get in our own heads sometimes about what's happening. Healing, there is a process, whether you've broken a bone, whether it's a flare-up of joint pain, whether it's a cut on your hand, there is a process of healing. And sometimes we just have to wait that process out, especially if it's an acute injury, like we've fallen over and sprained our ankle. We just wait. Sprained ankles can be a pain in the ass because they can take a while, but there is a process and the body will naturally heal itself. When we're managing something, that's more about if you have a chronic or a long-term condition. Osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, they all fit into that category. So it's managing the symptoms as they come up. And then ignoring is sometimes, there was one lady who used to come to my classes who was convinced that she had arthritis of the knee. She didn't go and get a diagnosis, or not for a while anyway. And she just tried to get on with life, which is essentially ignoring. And then it wasn't until I think she'd been in the class for a while, and then she did go and see her GP about it and got a referral, because I was like, it's good to know if it is or it isn't. Turns out it wasn't. I can't remember what it was in the end, but it wasn't osteoarthritis. She didn't have that in her knee, and that's great to know. So this is another thing I like to teach or really share or make a point of saying: acute versus chronic. So acute pain is relatively short term. It's as a result of some kind of accident, bump, scrape, dare I say, car accident. Like, you will know that you've done something. Like if you bruise your leg, often you know that you have because you bashed it on a wall or something. Like, you can cite the cause of it. And chronic is more something that where there is pain still existing in the body after the initial clearing up and the initial healing of the injury, or it is a long-term condition that is going to go on for more than 3 months. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And the reason I want to state those two differences is there are some things for acute pain where we take things like paracetamol, we may use heat or ice packs, may find resting, like sitting down for a few days, helps to relieve a muscle ache. Generally, it's often a case where it will almost clear up by itself, or there's a clear path of healing. So that's kind of an acute response, and it will invariably fix the salute, like the situation will resolve. However, chronic, we may do all of those things. We may take paracetamol or other painkillers, may rely on heat packs to get us through the day, or we may spend lots of time resting because we're hoping that it's going to get better. But we have to flip that script when it's chronic, because when it's osteoarthritis, say, of the knee or the hip, it isn't going to go away. When they do the MRI scan or the X-ray and it shows up the wear and tear in the knee, that wear and tear isn't going to heal itself, and there is no medication that they can give you that's going to help that. But what does help is movement, and not movement through the pain or the stiffness that you're experiencing, but up until, and trying to gently mobilize it and doing it regularly enough that the body gets used to it, but also that you in your mind gets used to it and you start to realize, oh, actually, this isn't too bad. My body can manage. And whilst it's uncomfortable, I can deal with it. And then that way you give the body an opportunity to build more muscle around the joints, which will then allow the joint to move without such a firm bone on bone action. So I hope that really helps define those two things. And I wanted to say that if it is, sorry, I'm just flicking between, if it is acute, if it has just happened, if it's serious, if you've broken a bone, you can see the bone popping out of your leg, please call A&E, please call 999. That's exactly where you should be. Or maybe it's a 111 call. Or maybe it is still like filling out the form and letting the GP know so that you get that triage call so that they can have a conversation with you about what has happened and see where that takes you. And then with chronic things, if it's an ongoing condition for you and you have a flare up, again, be in touch with your GP, fill out that online form. And maybe they'll refer, maybe you've got a consultant that works on your case, or maybe you need to get referred for physiotherapy. Whatever it is, let those things happen and take that action, because it's really important to you. And then those people around you. And it's important that you look after yourself so that you can, live and breathe and be in the sort of best version of yourself, or just the little things like being able to, like Linda said, being able to go to a gym and climb up the stairs and just do the things that you need to while you're there. Before I ramble my way on to the third one, Linda, is there anything that you want to add or ask me?
Yes, I'm agreeing with everything pretty much. It is true that it's reassuring if you go to the GP and the GP refers you and says, well, first of all, that when they say, yes, that does look very swollen, and you go, oh, good, I'm glad it's not my imagination. And then they refer you, and sometimes by the time you've been referred, it has all gone down. But when you go, they kind of go, well, what happened? And so again, it was useful to make a note in the diary that I twisted my knee very badly on a sort of hummock thing when walking the dog, and you slip down like when you fall off a curb and it wrenches it and you're like, oh, that hurt. And I could remember that was what it was. And so the consultant refers to that as a flare up. And then when it's a flare up, you kind of know, because like from the course that I did with you, it was like, well, that's when you just go, okay, we don't have to stop everything, but just moderate, go back a couple of levels, just keep your exercise going. But if it really hurts to weight bear, don't do too much on that leg, lower the reps or whatever. And the consultant confirming that or telling you that you need to rest this, you need to ice, you need to at least 20 minutes twice a day, still go for your walks, but go somewhere a bit flatter, avoid hills, whatever it gives you the confidence to carry on doing something rather than stopping altogether. And when I came to that course first off, I was very frightened to do anything because when I'd done things under my own steam, I just made everything worse. So although my hip didn't hurt too badly, then my knees started to hurt. And then if I did something that my knees didn't hurt, then my feet, I've got problems with my toes, they were hurting too much to do it. So I just stopped doing everything because I wasn't sure I was going to make everything worse. So I'm agreeing with you, really. I think the referral and stuff is important because at least you know where you are at that minute. And they said to me about my knees, well, the text actually said, yes, we can confirm you have severe osteoarthritis in both knees and the bone is on the bone. If you'd like to discuss this further, please reply to, please ring up and make an appointment. It's like, what do you mean, do I want to discuss this further? Of course I do.
Of course I
Um,
do.
but it was like, oh, okay. So when I read, they said, well, what would you like to do? And I'm like, no, you're the consultant. I mean, you're the specialist. And he just said, well, you need to go and do some exercises and build the muscles up and stuff. I'll send you for some physio. So I got, 6 weeks of physio, and they explained exactly what you had done, really, and just showed us the exercises. And it got to a certain point, and they gave me the next lot to do. And I tried to do them that week. And when I went back, I said, that's the limit. I can't do this, whatever it is. I can't remember what it was quite. I think it was lifting something quite heavy with a band or something. And I was like, no, that is actual pain. And that was swelled up the next day, and I stopped doing it. And they said, oh, good. But so I kind of knew where I'd got to at that time. That's what I could do. But that was a lot further than I'd been when I first went, where I could barely do anything. So again, it's this kind of repetition, but in safety, and increasing your ability, but safely. I felt more confident to do it. Otherwise, I'd have stayed on the same program for the entire. I'd still be doing the same thing now if they hadn't said, no, you can. Now we can add in this, or now we can add that. And okay. But I was,
Yeah.
I don't think I can do that. And then they said, well, go on, then just show me. Once you've been shown a couple of times, your back's in the right place, your knees are in the right place. Then say, oh, okay. Yes, so I agree, and it is helpful. All
Yeah.
of that. It's just I'm kicking myself now. So why aren't I still doing it then? But that'll
There's
be your
still,
next slide, I'm sure.
yeah, there's still time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me go back to sharing a screen. Here we go. Hopefully you've got my beautiful slide again, Linda. I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay, so takeaway number 3. So this is more about solutions, like Linda was kind of alluding to, and kind of asking for a little bit of what to do next. Maybe not exactly the answer, but
Yes.
can you mix medical and holistic approaches? Absolutely, yes, you can. Now, if I just sort of try and relate to this a little bit and share with you what you might be thinking yourself, but also what I've kind of heard people say is you might have some people in your life who are taking turmeric. You might have some people in your life who are tracking the moon and they believe that that has an impact on their lives. There is some truth to that, but it may seem a bit woo-woo to you. You may have some people in your life who are very anti-pills and refuse to take any, and they'll only take painkillers if they really have to. That's okay. So they may be more holistic in their approach and maybe do some things that you may or may not fully understand or think have any validity. Equally, you may have people in your life, or you may be someone who is always waiting for that next consultation appointment, who hangs on every word of the GP or the consultant and what they say, and absolutely follows their guidance, or won't. Sometimes what I experience with people is they won't actually take any action at all until they have spoken to their GP or their consultant, partly out of fear because they don't want to make things worse, and partly because they're just people who, you know, really respect the rules and want to follow things and do them absolutely right. And you don't have to be in either camp. You don't have to pick which side you're on. You can absolutely be in that grey area in the middle. Do a bit of the holistic approach, do a bit of medical. It's entirely your choice. Invariably, with stuff like osteoarthritis, there is no one way that works for everyone. There are some strong things that we'll say, like that, you know, therapists like me and physios will hang their hat on, and it will be the stake they die on, that absolutely building muscle in the body is really important. And that is true. But if you want to take turmeric or L-glutamine supplements because you believe it to help and make a difference to you, then by all means, go ahead, take it. It's not a problem. On a different vein, my mum took collagen for a year and she noticed no difference at all. So she stopped taking it. It's absolutely fine. Some people will swear down by collagen and think it's absolutely the thing, and that's fine for them. Absolutely. But there's a phrase like, take what works for you and leave behind what doesn't. And that's kind of what I'm going to lean into with this slide. But hopefully that feels at home to you, or you can relate to that. So if I explain and go into a little bit more what holistic covers and what medical covers. So when we look at holistic, it doesn't have to be all the woo-woo stuff. It doesn't have to be crystals and soul alignment and sound baths, but it absolutely can be, if that floats your boat, and like energies and chakras and Reiki and reflexology, all of those things. If you have tried them and you like them and you've gone away from them and you feel like it has done something for you, something positive, great. If you haven't tried them and you're judging them and you don't want to do them, to some degree, that is also fine. Maybe a little bit of open-mindedness just to try, because you never know. It's not going to hurt most of the time. It's not going to do bad things, really. But it also, holistic also covers things like exercise and nutrition. So looking after, like Linda was talking about, the program that I run through Nuffield, and people can access it with me privately, is that exercise is important. And if you need guidance and support, and you can get that through an exercise class or finding local programs like the Nuffield Health Joint Pain Program. And I think some local authorities offer like exercise classes. I know they do for type 2 diabetes and keeping your sugar levels down. And sometimes there are like local initiatives that you can get into. Those things are holistic. Nutrition, absolutely. If it's available to you to work with a nutritionist, or if nutrition really fascinates you and you're happy to do all the research and read all the articles online, please read credible ones, and please know whether you're reading marketing or actual evidence, because that's important. But that is also holistic. Holistic is, you've got, so I'm not a physio, but from a physio point of view, this is what they're taught. This is what I'm taught as a PT and a rehab specialist. You've got your patient, you've got their arthritic knee, and then it's looking beyond that. So beyond the arthritic knee, what is happening in this person's life? What is their stress levels like? Do they still have young children in their life? Are they looking after elderly parents while still working? Oh God, I've lost my train of thought, but it's that whole picture of someone's life. Do they have another disease that they're living with? that's a comorbidity and they're trying to manage two conditions. That's holistic. There's also things like, and this is what we do talk about in the Nuffield Health Programme a lot, actually, is social. It's like mental and emotional support and being social and avoiding social isolation. So this is where sometimes people are in pain and they might be both, actually, sick of hearing themselves whinge about the pain that they're in. Their words, not just mine, for this talk. And then they don't want to, when their friends ask them, oh, how are you doing? They don't want the first thing that they say to be, oh, well, actually, I'm in pain, or actually, this has been really hard for me, because they don't want to bring their friends down. Also, sometimes friends can be a bit overbearing with their solutions and all you want is a bit of sympathy. So it's just complex. And so sometimes that social isolation can make things feel worse. And I guess the fourth one there that I've written is journaling. And maybe that falls into the woo-woo things that I explained at the start. Sometimes people find journaling, looking up journal prompts on the internet and writing down how they think or feel can help them manage their emotions. So that's the holistic approach. And it's not exclusive to medical. A lot of the time, we can be doing this holistic stuff whilst following a medical route. So medical is more, with osteoarthritis, there isn't any medication specific to help with the wear and tear, but there is a plethora of pain medication that you'd be able to take. If you have something like rheumatoid arthritis, there will be disease-specific drugs that can, I want to choose the right words, but basically have an influence over the disease itself and reduce inflammation. So that's that second column, the condition-specific drugs. Another medical route is physiotherapy. And as Linda has explained, and she's gone through it, physiotherapy can really help find exercises that do work, that encourage range of motion, and that help to build muscle. These are like the key words that are bandied about and that need to happen. And then the kind of, when you're looking at osteoarthritis, you may start at pain meds. Condition-specific drugs may be a thing if you've got another kind of arthritis. Then you've got physio. Under physio, you've also got rehabilitation specialists like me. You've got specific personal trainers who are qualified with their GP referral qualification to help those. There will be classes out there. There will be a whole plethora of things in that column. And then almost really the last resort for osteoarthritis is surgery, which is, like the said, like total knee replacements can be life-changing in a really positive way, but it's not really the first line of defense that any medical practitioner would want to go down, because joints do need to be replaced. They don't last forever. The only joint that lasts forever is your own natural one. Well, even then that gets a bit of wear and tear, doesn't it? So I hope what I've given you is some inspiration, maybe some clarity over what these different things are and what you can do. What time is it? Oh yeah, I've been chatting loads. So I guess in conclusion, what I would say is that it might not be just an age thing. There will definitely be something you can do about it, and that you absolutely get to choose. And just before I go to Linda to ask her if she's got any questions or anything to add, there will be another episode like this. And the next one is to do with what to do next after seeing the GP. So it does lead on nicely after this one, and that's next Thursday. But let me just check in. So, Linda, what do you think? Have you got any questions?
Have I got any questions? Not really. well, you know, kind of like really specific ones might be like, so how does one access you privately
Mhm.
to help you do stuff and rehab? Um, I was just going to comment a tiny bit on the holistic with the medication
Mm.
because I mean, because I've got osteoarthritis, I've got quite a lot of deterioration in the base of my spine, and that gives me, you know, really bad backache, and you know, aches when I'm walking and then afterwards, and then trying to measure how much worse it is, whether that route was very good or not. You know, it's all a bit boring, but like you were saying, you don't want to talk about it all the time. But the point is that I actually, when it was acute and it went into like spasm and I couldn't breathe, something happened and I was like, can't breathe. Went to see an osteopath who did some dry needling, which I'd never heard of, plus a bit of massage, and then said, look, this is a chronic condition, because I'd had an x-ray. Showed her the x-ray. She said, look, this is a chronic condition. The only thing you can do is try and keep those muscles stronger, but also just come regularly. Don't leave it until you've gone into complete spasm like you have. You know, we can hopefully keep it at bay. So every 6 weeks, I go for like a 45-minute, and I don't really have to say anything. Otherwise, she watches me walk in and goes, oh, okay, so we'll have a look at the left side, or, you know. But my neck was very bad this time. And I'd noticed that I was stiff. And when I come out of that, although I'm quite sore that day, today, I feel like I could run a marathon. I mean, I won't, but, you know, I feel great today. And I'd had to miss a session because I had an operation on my face and couldn't put my head down. And I really noticed when I had to cancel one that I was really stiff and and had stopped doing some things because it was hurting. So it is a good balance. I've got medication I can take. I don't take, you know, I mean painkillers, but I don't take them unless I've done a lot. If I've done a lot, I've been told to take them. What's the word? Prophylactically is the word, which is in advance of it happening. So
Okay.
it's like take it because you've done a 3 mile walk instead of a 1.5 mile walk, and you know that it will hurt. So just take some so you don't stiffen up too badly. Because if you're in pain, you don't move, and what you need to do is move. But I have also got the freezer pack in the freezer. I have got the pack that you heat up as well. I've got a little sort of routine for dealing with it afterwards, but it's making sure you still do it. Um, and I was also going to comment that the social bit in the groups, for some people, it's really important, and that how we met up the other week, last week, and it was so lovely to see everyone. In that group we were in, we all got on really, really well and were really supportive. And I pretty much feel I could ask them to come and see me when I've had my hip done and say, could you just come over and, you know, help me do my exercises or something, which would be, and I'm sure they would say yes, I'll be round. So it's lovely and supportive without having to pay for everything all the time. It can really help,
Yeah. Yeah.
including yourself, of course, but, you know, just the others, just being able to say, oh, well, I'm around, I'll come and do it, or I'll come walk with you if you're what, you know. When I get over, I'm down on the list for another hip replacement this autumn, and we were talking to a lady who's going to have hers done, and like, well, if you want us to come around and go for a little walk with you when you've had it done, just so you've got someone to hang on to or be with you, that's so important for confidence, and someone who understands about it and not going to suddenly go raunching off up the road 100 miles an
Yeah.
hour. You're struggling along. Wait a minute, you know, because family often don't understand. But someone that does understand, it can be really supportive and helpful, not make you feel like an idiot, but you'll actually do it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was
Yeah.
just adding, really.
Yeah. No, thank you, Linda. I think that's really valuable. And I hope anyone who finds themselves listening to this on the replay or in the future gets that because yeah, having a chronic condition can be lonely doesn't always feel the right word, but it can be a lonely thing because yeah,
Yeah, because
family
I've
are
got
trained to
friends that
mean well.
say, "Oh, let's go for a dog walk," and they come over and they go romping off, and I'm like, "Oh dear." And you know, I do it for a bit, and then I say, "Look, you know, my hip is a bit sore, but oh, okay, well, we can go back early and all this," and you sort of feel a complete failure. So you don't tend to ask to go for them with them again. But if you've got someone who says, "Oh," well, if you don't mind not going too quickly, or if you don't mind going somewhere a bit flatter because I've got a bad whatever, I'd love
Mm,
to come. And then you go with them and you pick somewhere and you have a lovely time and you feel all empowered instead of discouraged.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
can matter just being honest, but feeling confident enough to be honest with people that aren't going to make you feel worse.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I think that would be really useful. And
Okay.
what I will say is that that's what I've created this little community. We're debating whether the name is correct. I like the name. Of course I do. I created it. It's called Hit and Chat. It's a class, online class in the evenings. Might not be for everyone, but everyone is welcome to come and give it a try.
Hmm.
It's 30 minutes of exercise followed by 15 minutes of chat around a specific topic of some kind. It might be habits related or goals related. And it's just what you talked about. It's that sense of community, being with other people, knowing you're not alone, not feeling like you have to always be the best version of yourself or you need to keep up with everyone else, that you can just come along, do your bit, experience it, and be proud and know that there are people there with you who are pleased with you that you've done it too.
Hmm.
So that's partly me privately, and then the other part
Okay.
is private personal training that I
Yeah.
tend to talk to people on a, like, we can have
Yeah.
a phone
One to one.
call and like
Yeah.
talk about the ins and outs, because then it
Mm.
does get a bit more personal about
Yeah.
what um
But
so
the
if
hit
you,
thing is that, can you send out details about that, or
yeah,
is there
yeah,
somewhere to find that I should just find out, or
yeah, I will send you a link for it.
because you've got my email and everything? Yeah, great.
Yeah, yeah, I will
Thank you.
do that, no problem.
Because half of it is finding where to start. Where do you go? And sometimes start, coming to a gym and signing up for that, and then feeling like you need to go, and then not knowing quite what to do once you get there is can be a bit daunting. And maybe starting a bit smaller, getting
Yeah,
some confidence, and then thinking, no, actually, I could do doing this 3 times a week, and I could do this by myself, no problem. Just need to be somewhere. Might
yeah,
change things a bit. And like for me, I want to get as mobile as possible before the op, but then I know I'm going to have an op and be off for 3 months. So joining somewhere and then having to cancel it, and then all the rest of it
yeah.
gets quite complicated. What was it? There was something that reminded me I was going to say might be relevant to this.
I've got one more thing
Oh
to say.
yes, I was
Yeah,
just going to say that the big thing I think for anyone of my age, and when you were talking about things you want to do, getting up off the floor. That is my I can't do that at the moment. I could, when I finished that course, I could get up. I had enough strength and ability to do it. And I can't at the moment without large pieces of furniture that are very heavy to pull against. So something like that, it's not like whatever you've got wear and tear wrong with you, whatever, you need to be able to do that. And the longer you can do that, the better it is, because that's what seems to finish people off being on their own and getting nervous of doing exercise and stuff because they're worried about falling. So
yeah,
the more mobility, balance, and strength enough to get up off the floor. That's not saying you can run up 6 flights of stairs, but enough to be able to get off the floor is really important.
it's
Anyway,
a
that was it.
surprising big deal actually. And the last thing I was going to say about my hit and chat classes is
Yeah.
there's a weights program. I'm trying to coin the phrase working with weights. I feel like it's less less confronting for people.
Yes.
And so I run like a tutorial session that's recorded so that you can then watch it and you can follow along
Because I've
with
got
the
my
weight. Be
little
like,
my
oh,
little set,
that
my
oh right,
COVID set, as I call it.
yeah. It's like, oh, that's how I do a squat. Okay, and now I can
Yes.
do 10 of those and or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think I'm hoping that
That
will be
sounds
a
good
really
as
useful
well.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think that's where the balance between mobility and strength. And sometimes you can't do the mobility with the strength, i.e., you can't squat necessarily holding heavy weights because your knees are bad, but you could lift the weights without doing the squat. But if you haven't separated those two things, then you think you can't do it.
Yeah.
And then maybe when you are a bit stronger, you can combine the two because you've built the muscle around the joint that's then going to be supported, then you could do it at the same time. But it's the start and starting safely that doesn't put you off, or put you off as in it hurts or you hurt yourself or you feel like you might. It's the confidence to keep to do it. So that sounds great. Yes, I'd like to see that as well, please.
All right, I shall share it. And then Frances has come in. I don't know if she's been waiting a while or if
Oh
she's
gosh.
just tried. I'm not sure. I'm going to check in with her now. Hopefully she's going to let me know. I think I can ask you to unmute if that helps. Ooh. Oh, it's not working. If you can find the chat box, you can always type something in there. Oh no, Frances, you've come off mute. Perfect.
Right, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. I've been trying to log in for ages.
Oh no.
But it not able to. I missed all of it. So I'm going to have to watch the recording, I'm afraid.
That's perfectly okay. I'll send it out this afternoon, hopefully maybe this evening.
Okay.
If you can
But I
bear
would
with me,
like to hear
Frances.
it, so I will watch the recording later.
Fab. Well, if you find you have any questions off the back of it, you can always just reach out to me and I'll answer them. It's no problem.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, it's lovely to know that you've been here, or you've been trying to be here. I'm sorry that you had so much trouble.
That's all right. I wondered whether it's because you had my husband's name come up, but it seemed to pick up his Zoom account for some unknown reason.
To be honest, I think I need to get 2 computer screens because it wasn't able to let me know actually that you were trying to log in. To be honest, it hasn't told me.
Oh no, I did spend quite a while in the waiting room, but never mind.
Oh,
I'll watch
sorry.
it anyway. Apologies for that. Nice to see you both, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Take
Okay,
care,
bye, Frances.
I'll head off as well, Linda, unless there's anything.
Okay, yeah, great. I've got to go and do gardening. So that was my sit down bit while I ate my dinner, and then I'll go off and do it. I just walked the dog when I came in, so I was like, I've made it back, quick.
Bless you.
Okay, I'll see you soon. Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye.